All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to an absolute bananas episode coming up of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you consume Talking Buffalo. Appreciate you guys so much. Big shout out real quick to both our sponsors. Sunny Reds 1841, just down the road from what is an absolute unbelievable scene as we record this at Highmark Stadium. And also shout out Imperial Pizza, 1035 Abbott Road, home of the best lunch special in town. All right, on the video side, we are live here right now, maybe 10 or 15 minutes after one of the most absolute unbelievable things that I've seen when it comes to the Buffalo Bills or just sports in a very long time. Off the top of my head, maybe, with some reflection and sleeping on it, I'll think of other stuff. But right now, holy shit, man, I don't even know what to say. Thank you to everybody who watches this live or you listen to this tomorrow. My guy, Joe from Queens, actually picked a hell of a game to be at the stadium. He took a trip up to Buffalo. He's at the game. I got my guy tag teaming in for him tonight, broadcaster Steve Bermel. It's been a hot minute, Steve. And let me just start by saying, holy shit, dude. God, what's up, man? What's up? The Buffalo Bills have defeated the Baltimore Ravens. I cannot believe I'm saying this right now. 41-40, just incredible. What's up, man? You absolutely picked a great time to come on this show. What's up, dude?
Yeah, what happened, man? I turned it off when they were down 15 in the fourth quarter. I'm just kidding.
Do you hear Josh real quick, by the way? Josh, so after the game, a lot of people left the stadium. In fact, I got a couple texts from a few friends who did, and they admitted it. Josh threw a little bit of rightful shade at him and said, well, have faith next time, basically. What's up, though, man? How you doing?
I can't complain. It's incredible. My wife and sister are in Vegas together at a Bills backer bar, and she said 2/3 of the people left. So the people who were left were, bouncing off the walls. And I FaceTimed my wife right after the game and got to see that party. So my wife probably had more fun watching the game than I did in that environment. But man, I'm silently screaming and pacing and running in my house. I've got 2 kids sleeping down the hallway who have no idea what's going on. I've perfected the silent scream. I've perfected the because I can't scream and wake them up. But man, oh man, what a game. Pat, not to jump right, I didn't think they were going to win this game. I had every reason to think they were going to lose. They're down 15 in the fourth quarter. And honestly, I was getting ready to talk to you about how the game kind of went to script. Henry runs all over them. They can't get off the field on third down. Lamar carves them up with his legs, doesn't even need to become much of a passer. They should have had a better game plan. None of that matters. I mean, they found a way to win. Josh Allen is a mutant. Incredible.
Yeah, look, man, you got to, if you're watching this on the video side, whether you're watching this live here very late on a Sunday night or whether you check this out on the video side sometime Monday, I got a Josh Allen MVP hat. And generally speaking, Steve, I'm not a big fan of doing this podcast and wearing Bills gear. I just feel like it's a little bit too homery, and I try really, really hard to be objective. Although I openly admit that I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, and I do not hide from that, but I don't like to be a fan when I'm doing this show. But last year's MVP showed you why he is the MVP of the NFL. I'll just say that right now. And again, I just put a bunch of comments up. There's a lot of people commenting. A lot of people are flying into the stream. Again, thank you very much. I am going to be honest with you. When you cover hockey, Steve, okay, and maybe it's the same with the Bandits too. When you're in the press box and the game's basically over, like say you're down 3 goals in the third period, a lot of journalists like to get a head start on their story. They start writing the story in the third period. Or if it's a blowout, in football too, I guess, because that's what I did. Let me be honest with you, Steve, and to everybody out there listening. About a half hour or so ago, the first few paragraphs of the show notes, I had the Bills talking about losing, the defense just being absolutely pathetic, cement-footed safeties, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff. Joe Brady with some really questionable play calling, despite the points that they scored. just chasing 2 points. I still don't understand. There's a lot of things to get to, and we will get to it. But my point was, I already had all this stuff in the show notes. I had the Bills losing. I openly admit it. I talked about a 2-play sequence on Twitter, and I said ball game, and I'm getting called out for it right now on social media. And absolutely, rightfully so, do I deserve to be called out, because I thought this game was over. The Bills trailed 40-25 with 7:16 left, okay? From that point, Josh Allen went 11 of 14 for 166 yards, a touchdown, 139.9 quarterback rating, and also had 7 carries for 7 yards and a touchdown. And the Bills won this game 41-0. It's still kind of just sinking in. The game just ended. Are you shocked right now? Are you a little bit shell-shocked? In a good way, of course. Like, it's almost hard to talk about it because I'm just so shocked.
Yeah, and it felt like when they would get momentum, the Ravens would find a way to kind of seize it right back anytime that, Allen played great for most of the game. I felt like he was handcuffed a little bit in the first half, but when Allen was making some plays and, then the defense is out there and they would just, it would just be fleeting. It was gone. But that fumble felt like a huge turning point. When you knock the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands, that's not easy to do. But then to come up with it and have the ball on the Ravens' 30-yard line, that was the first glimmer of hope I had that the game maybe wasn't over. I don't know if you saw the next-gen stats that the Bills were down to 1.1% chance to win at one point. So in other words, the Ravens had a 98.9% chance to win. And man, what a narrative the Ravens are making for themselves, because over the past 3 or 4 years, I've seen the graphics put up of like the score lines that the Ravens were up in the fourth quarter of all these games, including against Buffalo in a couple of them. And the caption is the Ravens lost all of those games. Well, add another one to it, because like you said, up 15 points with 7 minutes to go, you would think they'd have to try to lose that game. And they must have, because, that turnover is a killer, and they let Allen carve them up. Ravens fans had to be feeling like how Bills fans were feeling for most of the game. Like, what they're going to do. You have to have game plan to try to stop this. Don't let Henry run for 300 yards. Don't let Lamar scramble for 30 yards on 3rd and 10. They have to be like, Allen's going to roll the pocket. He's going to make a play. Don't let him do it. Contain him in the pocket. And guess what? He couldn't be contained.
Let me get to a point here. The Buffalo Bills. All right. And then I got a couple comments, including one from my wife, who I watched the game with her. She's got a great take, and we're going to talk about that in a second here. But I got to pull this up because, again, we're doing this in real time, and everything I had, I'm basically chalking into the garbage. Well, at least to get to later, because it's not important anymore. What's important is the final score, 41-40. All right. So Baltimore was up 40-25, okay? They punted. The Bills defense forced a 3-and-out, and they punt. The Bills then go on a 10-play, 80-yard drive for a touchdown, and they kicked one there, and it's 40-32, okay? Then Baltimore gets the ball back. The play of the game, Derrick Henry fumbles because of Ed Oliver, and we're going to get to Ed Oliver. That's what I was talking about here in just a minute. Baltimore fumbles the ball. The Bills get it. They go 4 plays, 30 yards for a touchdown. They failed to get the 2-point conversion. I hated that call, by the way. It was a low percentage play to Keon Coleman. I was losing my mind at that point. Like, this is how they're going to lose the game. I still thought the game was over. It's 40-38. Baltimore gets the ball. The Bills got all 3 of their timeouts, but I'm like, they've been helpless all game long. They're not stopping them. Well, they did. They forced a second 3-and-out, and then the Bills went 9 plays, 66 yards in a minute, 26 seconds, used the clock perfectly. Matt Prater, the toast of the town right now here in Western New York, wins the game. A defense, Steve, that was, again, helpless for almost the entirety of this football game. It was hard to watch. Not 1, 2 3-and-outs, and a forced fumble. And it was a forced fumble. Henry didn't just drop the ball. Oliver knocked it out. All on the last 3 drives. What a turn of events, ain't it? And let's get to the Ed Oliver point. I'm going to bring this up. My wife, who watched the game with me, and I'll be honest with you, there was no confidence in the Moran house in the fourth quarter. It was like, this game is over. Anyway, her comment is, someone better give Ed Oliver the game ball. Let me tell you this right now, everybody. That was the best game of Ed Oliver's career. He was the difference in this football game. he was the only player who showed up for the first 2.5 quarters. And then when they needed a play more than anything to have an opportunity to even stay in this game, Ed Oliver delivered. He was sensational in this game, ain't it? I'm just talking. I don't even know what I'm rambling, Steve. I can't help myself right now, man. It feels good, though. Talk about Ed Oliver. He was the difference in this game.
100%. I get it. And not to quickly change, but there was a couple plays in the first quarter or first half that Joey Bosa blew up. And I said to my wife, he's wrecking some plays. And man, did Ed Oliver ever become a wrecking ball in the second half, like single-handedly. When you can get pressure up the middle that quickly, whether it's against the pass or the run, you blow up plays. And all of a sudden, you just saw Ed Oliver. I don't even know if I should compare him, but kind of looking like Aaron Donald, right? Just off the line of scrimmage, exploding through the guard, the center, blowing up the play up the middle, and then to get the hand of the ball the way that he did. Derrick Henry never fumbles. Not only is he an outstanding player that, racks up all the yards and all the touchdowns, he does not fumble the football ever. And to get a fumble out of the guy who's having a career day out there, Derrick Henry had the Bills helmet paint on his glove from smacking them away so hard, and just was literally trouncing the Bills single-handedly. And then his screw up ends up being what gets the Bills back into the game. But Oliver, absolutely the game wrecker that they needed. And Pat, you're talking about the defense kind of being hapless for most of the game. I feel like this is Buffalo's defensive MO. It's like they were terrible on third down last year, but they'd get the timely turnover, or they'd get the stop in the red zone that turned a touchdown to a field goal like they did in the first half. They would have things happen on defense that did just enough to disrupt the other team from scoring, even though they weren't playing great defensively. And that was exactly what happened today. A timely turnover. The other thing is the Bills didn't turn the ball over. Josh almost threw the pick, but it was, quickly looked at and realized it was never caught. Other small things too, like Justice Hill, that ball hitting the ground, right? That would have been a 9-yard gain. Instead, they backed him up all the way back to before. So many things lined up. The deflected ball that Keon Coleman catch. Now it's my turn to just talk, Pat. I'm rambling.
Let's go, baby. Do it, man. That's what we're doing. This is a chaotic Talking Buffalo live instant reaction episode. This is what it is supposed to be, Steve. Tomorrow I will be doing I'll watch the game back. I'll watch the All-22. I will go through the PFF. I'll go through the Next Shed stats, and I'll have a lot of, informed takeaways. Right now, we're talking out of motion, but go ahead, man.
How many times over the years did we see the Patriots have this line of shit happen for them to win a game? How many times have we seen the Chiefs have this line of shit happen for them to win a game? Well, guess what? It's the Buffalo Bills' turn to have a drop pass, a dropped interception, a deflected ball that turns into a touchdown, a fumble from King Henry himself, giving them the ball on the 30-yard line, forcing a 3-and-out with 50 seconds to go. Like, this is the kind of stuff that great teams have happen. And that's maybe what I'm most excited about. Like, it's our turn to be that team. It's the Bills' turn to be that team that even when it seems like they're down and out, how many times did the Bills have their foot on the throat of Tom Brady and the Patriots, and they found a way to win? That has to be how the Ravens feel right now. Yeah, they beat the Bills in the regular season last year, but now the Bills have officially ousted Baltimore in the playoffs, and a game like this, maybe the worst loss that the Ravens, especially the Lamar Jackson Ravens, have experienced. Just incredible. It's incredible to be a fan of this team. They've been so much fun and so good in the entire Josh Allen era, but man, what a game. And you couldn't have asked for a crazier way for the Bills to be 1-0.
Listen, so I'm putting, if you're watching this on the video side, I'm throwing up a lot of comments because they're coming in really fast and furious, to be honest with you. Some of them I've bookmarked, and I might not address them specifically today, but I'm going to go back to them. And again, when I do a film review and kind of reaction show, or takeaway show, I'll certainly bring them up because there's some really good points. I believe Alex in the live chat brought up another good point. That last drive, third down, DeAndre Hopkins catches the ball, and Christian Benford, who kind of had an up and down game, man. He got beat a couple times. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins just made one of the best catches you'll ever see. I don't call that getting beat. But anyway, Christian Benford made an incredibly clutch tackle to hold him short, and then the Ravens ultimately punted, giving the Bills a chance to win this game on a field goal, which ultimately, of course, they did. Let me say this too, okay? And I'm not one of those, petty. Look, Bills, Ravens are a rival on the field. Bills, Mafia, Ravens, Flock, we've talked about this on the show. it gets really, really ugly on social media for whatever reason. Bills Chiefs is kind of built a little more respect. Bills Ravens fans, for whatever reason, they hate each other. And I think it's because both teams got an all-world elite quarterback and thinks they're much better than the other one. And I get it, but it just gets really, really ugly. There's enough Bills fans that don't respect Lamar Jackson the way they should. There's too many Ravens flock fans that just don't respect Josh Allen at all. I don't know how anybody who watched this game, and I don't give a shit if you're a Bills fan, a Ravens fan, a Chiefs fan, or whatever, Eagles, how you don't come away with a new level of respect for Josh Allen, the way he played football tonight in the second half. To what you said, Steve, is the handcuffs kind of came off because he felt a little bit handcuffed. But once them came off, because they had no choice, they had to start throwing the football. And Keon Coleman, we'll get to him in a few minutes too, man. Woo! This was a hello league, I'm Keon Coleman type of night, and we'll talk about that in a second. We'll talk about Josh again just one more time. People around the league, maybe you didn't think he deserved MVP or is an MVP caliber or worthy. I mean, what do you say after a performance like tonight?
I was most impressed with his downfield throws. We know what he can do. We know that he's a mutant, like I said. He moves the pocket, he rolls out, but then he hits these downfield throws like the one to Hawes at the 1 yard line, the throw to Palmer. Yeah, down that left sideline. Like how long did the Bills try to find a quarterback that could make that throw out to the boundary like that and have it be on a rope? I joked and said, I don't think Kincaid caught that touchdown pass. I think Josh Allen stuck it in his chest protector because he threw it so hard. And he makes throws that only a handful of quarterbacks in the league can make, in my opinion. But then the fact that he does it on the move and on the run and moving the pocket and rolling out to the right and rolling out to the left, when they finally let him throw the ball downfield, it's like they have the training wheels on him for some reason. Pat, these weren't even checkdowns. These were design screens and design bubbles and design drag routes that were right at the line of scrimmage. When all of a sudden the necessity came about, it's almost like last year when we were talking about not letting Allen run. They were kind of keeping him in the pocket until he had to run. That's kind of how the game plan felt tonight. Like everything was, high percentage, not going downfield throws and not really looking downfield. When Keon Coleman drops that screen pass on first down, I'm like, my goodness, it's such a conservative play call. And for it to turn into a negative play because he dropped it, of course you're out on the wrong foot. I'm not surprised that they punted 3 plays later. But when the training wheels had to come off because they're down 15 points with 8 minutes to go, he carved up a defense. And I saw someone commenting before about what the Ravens, coverage would be saying about their defense. He carved up a defense that, unlike the Bills, everybody was saying is going to be great. Their secondary is going to be really good. And for most of the game, it was. But when it came down to brass tacks, the MVP carved up that secondary like a hot knife through butter. And throwing it to not superstar receivers. He just made he made the third blocking tight end, made a highlight reel play down the seam. Just incredible to watch him work, and his skill set is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Again, I know a lot of people listen to the show and don't watch it, but for the people that are actually watching this, man, we got some really great comments coming in, some really great takes that some of them, again, I'm not really thinking about because I was 100% convinced this game was over, which also brings me to a point. I remember, so the second half was starting, Steve, and I observed this, and I said this to my wife, who watched the whole game with me, very nervous as well. But Harbaugh sounded borderline cocky. Like when you do the halftime interviews with, I don't know who the halftime person was. Apologies to her. But like at the start of the second half, Harbaugh just sounded like a guy who knew, almost cocky, like this game's over. He didn't say this game's over, but he seemed really confident. It felt like he felt his team was well on their way to running away with this game. As pleasantly stunned as we are as Bills Mafia, Bills fans, whatever the hell you want to call it right now, how equally disappointingly stunned do you think the Baltimore Ravens and their fans are right now? This is a Billsy thing that used to happen to the Buffalo Bills, so we kind of know what it's like. But the other shoe seems to be on the other foot. If you're the Baltimore Ravens right now, you got to be scratching your heads. And look, it's just one game, and I would have said that if the Bills lost too. But it is a big game. Let's not run away from this being a big game because these were quite possibly the two best teams in the AFC we quite possibly may see them play again in the playoffs, and the Bills just got a big leg up on that potential rematch being in Orchard Park by winning this game. Essentially, it's a 2-game swing because you beat them head-to-head. But if you're the Ravens right now, what do you think? What are you doing right now? How are you feeling?
Yeah, they have to be wondering, what they have to do to solve Josh Allen. What do we have to do to beat this guy? Because for all intents and purposes, they thought that we all thought that this game was over. Like they did. They scored 40 points, for goodness sake. And I think the big difference is, like, if Bills would have lost 40-38, we would have been able to say, look, they put up some points, they figured some things out. Yeah, they're 0-1. Everyone else in the division's 0-1 as well. They've got a pretty easy schedule for the next, so many games that they're going to find a way. They'll be all right. At least they showed us some life. They didn't get blown out 41-20. Yeah, they might have put up some garbage time stats, but Baltimore losing that game, that pendulum swung so far. I mean, kind of it did for Buffalo too, going from the negative to the positive. But I really like what you said about fans have to be scratching their heads. Like, one, what do we have to do to beat Josh Allen and the Bills? But two, why do we keep losing games to AFC opponents with 2-score leads in the fourth quarter? People want to come at McDermott for conservative and bad clock management. You said it. The clock management today was effing perfect. Like, they did everything right, even to the point when Coleman got tackled. Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth didn't know what the Bills were going to do from there. Oh, do you let them score? And I texted my wife. I said, kneel, kick it. And
I was
there's been
screaming
so
at
many
the
times
TV.
in the past where the Bills have botched that, where they've done something stupid or they, but they played it exactly right. And they, everything had to align for them to win. Everything had to fall apart for Baltimore to lose, and that is why you have two different fan bases that have very different reactions right now. Baltimore's a hell of a team. They're not a team that just kind of hung with the Bills today. It wasn't David and Goliath today. It was Goliath and Goliath. But somehow the Bills found a way to beat them late, which is incredible for us. And that coaching staff, Pat, what's that locker room like? I mean, they showed Hopkins and they showed Derrick Henry at the end of the game. Derrick Henry walking off the field looked like his dog just died. And I don't blame him, but like that locker room has to be absolutely devastated.
For sure. By the way, I was laughing a little bit to the side because I'm listening to you. I'm like, boy, oh boy, this is not a Joe from Queens take. And I mean that complimentary towards you, Steve, right now. I can only imagine the shit that Joe would be saying. And even if the Bills would have lost, you're just so much more composed. And I appreciate that. That's one of the things that I appreciate about you. Let's do this. If you're watching on the video side, I'm going to take a break. And by taking a break, I'm talking literally 3 seconds. I'm going to go off. I'm going to come right back. And we're going to get into some of the stuff. Like, there's lessons to be learned. Fortunately, the Bills get a W, but they still got some lessons that hopefully we'll be learning. We'll get to that literally in about 5 seconds here. All right, I am back here live on the video side. Steve Bermel, my good buddy, broadcaster. And God, I still am kind of having a hard time wrapping my mind around this. Earlier in the show, Steve, I talked about, and I'm going to get to some of these comments that are still flowing in, which, by the way, we're at 1,000 people live here on it's over past midnight on now on Monday morning. So this is just awesome. The Buffalo Bills stun the Baltimore Ravens, come back from down 15 to win 41-40 on literally the last play of the game. Matt Prater, game-winning field goal. Let me tell you, so I said earlier that I started writing the story because I thought this game was over. Let me empty out the notebook a little bit with you because, again, the Bills did a lot wrong, okay? The fact that they won this game and still did as much as they did wrong is incredible, and it's great. But there's a lot to work on. And let me tell you what my initial first paragraph was, okay? You can react to this now because I still stand by it. I said, my big takeaway, some cast members have changed, but this year's Bills team is exactly like last year's Bills team, which I was wrong about. We'll get to that in a second. Now, don't get me wrong. Last year's team made it to the AFC title game, and they were a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl. But you had all offseason to fix what's wrong, and what's wrong last year is still wrong now. Receivers not getting open, which that was a problem. And I talked to a lot of people and a lot of media people commenting on the game. Nobody was getting open for 3 quarters, okay? Receivers not getting open. Some mind-boggling usage of James Cook at times. And Joe Brady play calling at times. Mind-boggling. I mean, there were a couple times where Ray Davis was out there, especially like I remember that 3rd and 1. I'm like, what are they doing? anyway, there's that. A defense that for most of the game, they just got bodied. I mean, this is a defense like last year that was good because they got so many turnovers. And this defense relies almost exclusively on turnovers. And for 3.5 quarters, I was right. Specifically, the secondary is kind of shaky after you get past Benford and Johnson. And I'm right, especially the safeties. And I even had in my notes, Josh Allen, that tush push. He went that one play, he went like 5 yards to the left and got stuffed. I'm like, did he not learn that from last year? So I had a lot to bitch about, and I still have a lot to bitch about. I'm going to, again, be a little more. I'm happy to get a W and still be bitching about it, but there was a lot to not like about this football game from a Buffalo Bills perspective, even though they got obviously a big win.
For sure. If you're going to learn lessons, you said before the break that they had some lessons to learn. You'd always rather learn them in a win. And so for them to have won this game, and yeah, they got to learn some lessons, and there's a lot that they have to fix. And we know exactly what McDermott's going to say. It's going to be the same. There's a lot of things we have to fix. We didn't do a lot of things well. It starts with me, the preparation, fundamentals and tackling. All that stuff still holds true. But they're 1-0 and the only team with a win in the division. So if you're going to learn these tough lessons, it's good to learn them in a win for sure. But when you're talking about the same, man, the play that comes to mind right away is Lamar on 3rd and long. They collapse the pocket around him. They pretty much contain the edges. They kind of have him
later on. They did,
but then he takes off on 3rd and long, and he gets 30 yards later. He gets a first down, and that felt like the backbreaker the other way. When I said, the Henry fumble felt like the turning point that the Bills had life. When you had the Ravens in 3rd and long, and you have Lamar running for his life 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and the next thing you know, he's down the field 38 yards or whatever it was for a first down. Like, what are you doing? Like, the one thing that you cannot allow to happen there, it's easy for us to say sitting on our couch in our living room, but the one thing that you can't allow to happen there is to have him scramble out of trouble and then gain 40 yards. Like, that just is such a head scratcher to me. Like, I don't know. It was so frustrating to watch them. We all know what's coming. We all know the two things that you had to protect against today. Did I see that Lamar only threw the ball 18 times today? That means that you let Henry and Lamar score 40 points with only throwing the ball 18 times. Like, that's the exact script that the Ravens used to beat the Bills in the regular season last year. It's a script that they want to use to win their games. And as just a casual fan that doesn't know shit about football, what is the defense doing? Why can't they stop this? We all know what's coming, and they couldn't figure it out. But, we have a much different attitude since they won by, 1 point on a last-second field goal by Matt Prater. Did you have that on your bingo card? Hey, before the season, hey, the Bills are going to win week 1 on a last-second field goal by Matt Prater. Didn't have that one lined up, but I'm glad that they won.
I felt oddly comfortable.
And now they've got an easier patch of the schedule to work on this stuff with.
I felt oddly comfortable tonight with Matt Prater, maybe just because he's such a veteran. Like, when Tyler Bass is out there, look, man, I'm not trying to shit on Tyler Bass, and hopefully he comes back. Well, actually, I don't know. We'll see how this plays out now, man. We'll see. I just felt oddly comfortable with Matt Prater. But back to the Bills' run defense. Baltimore ran for 238 yards. And they had like 150 or something of that on the first 3 drives. The run defense was much better in the second half, but they ran for like $160 in the first half, and that includes a 14-yard fumble and a loss by Hill, who fumbled that ball. So that includes it. They stopped them there. I'm going to get to Keon Coleman in a second. A couple people have had really good, some good comments in there. I want to get back to my show notes here, my notes from the game, because I said this, and I'm going to, again, I'll be honest. Say one play in particular is the poster, or one sequence is the poster child for this defense. This had me almost having a coronary, Steve, at my television set. And I'm sure a lot of people, Bills fans watching, I'm not the only one. You probably all felt the same way. But it's 3rd and 10 at the Baltimore 35-yard line, okay? The Bills are down 9, 34-25. All right, there's 12:42 left in the game, so it's early fourth quarter, and you got Baltimore at 3rd and 10. $32 million worth of edge rushers, and Greg Rizzo and Joe Bosa both have Lamar Jackson seemingly dead to rights. And Lamar Jackson, in fairness to him, this is why he's a 2-time MVP. This is why he is an absolute elite, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and one of the best players in the NFL. He escapes, and he runs for the first down. It was crushing. And then the very next play, Derrick Henry takes a handoff, pretty much goes untouched, And Taylor Rapp, who was running around like he had cement stuck in his feet, foolishly giving chase. I'm like, yo, now it's 4. They missed the extra point, which mattered, by the way. 40-25. I literally tweeted out ball game. That was it. You had Bosa and Groot having Lamar dead, and he doesn't get sacked. He gets the first down. Derrick Henry, long touchdown, ball game. Right? It sure as shit felt that way, didn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you highlighted a play, was it Epineza in the first half on a read option that Epineza gets into the backfield. They leave him unblocked on purpose, but he couldn't have whiffed worse. I mean, he has Derrick Henry within 1 foot of his right arm, but he's still looking at Lamar. And by the time he realizes Lamar doesn't have the ball, Henry's already behind him and gone, or vice versa, whatever it was. There were a couple of times that these edge players missed the read. And I understand that that's exactly how the read option is supposed to work. But when you talk about the talented edge rush and like what the Bills have been trying to do with the defensive line, at that point, nobody was making the play. Even that play that you're talking about, I think it's the same one that I was highlighting, that Lamar takes off on 3rd and long, and it's a crushing play. I get that Lamar is a 2-time MVP, but I also want the edge rushers that you have been trying so hard to get a home run on. You have talked about on the show multiple times that nobody for the Bills has had 10 sacks since who? Bruce Smith? I know that's not accurate.
It kind of feels that way
Lorenzo
sometimes.
Alexander, right? But it feels like it. And these edge rushers, at some point, you needed somebody to make a play. It ended up being Ed Oliver to make a play, which is awesome, and that's what they needed. But for long stretches of the game, it was just like, who on this defense is going to make a play to make a difference in this game, whether that would be an interception or a turnover or a sack or, even force a punt. They couldn't do that for most of the game. But somehow, some way, good teams find ways to win. What the Bills did today, that mantra doesn't even work for, because excellent teams come back from the dead. Like, if good teams find ways to win, the Bills are an excellent team because they came back from being dead to rights.
All the talk on Monday is people listening to this and start to listen to other shows as well, and radio and things, is going to be, maybe this is just destiny. The last season at Highmark, and to win this game in this fashion. Let me share with you, okay, a DM I got from my son. Played high school football in Florida. He graduated 4 years ago. His high school coach still maintains a relationship here in New York with Shane, and especially myself. He sends me, he knows I'm a big Bills fan. He sends me DMs on occasion with just a quick thought or two. This is what he sent me, word for word, and this is at around 9:15 p.m., okay? He says, Pat, hope you're doing well. 2 things. 1, please tell Shane to teach the Buffalo defensive edges how to play the read option. They see Lamar every year, maybe time to play it correctly. They don't. 2, reigning MVP throwing 2 smoke screens in a 3-play sequence. Remember that early in the game?
Yeah.
Where it was back to back. They threw 2 little smoke screens and it didn't work. Bills ended up, I believe they ended up punting on that. It's like, got the MVP. What are we doing here throwing these little smoke? There was just a lot, again, just so much that went wrong. And the other thing I want to talk about, which, look, man, everything worked out, okay? I know that. But I don't know how you felt about this. I'm about to ask you, and everybody chime in as well. When the Bills scored that touchdown, I don't even remember what touchdown. There's so many goddamn points and touchdowns in this game. I can't remember what is what anymore. But what I do remember is they kicked the extra point. Baltimore had too many men on the field. And the Bills decided to take the point off the board, which I started screaming about right away. They moved the ball to the 1-yard line. They decided to go to 2 points for 2 points. I'm like, I did not like that. I want that point on the board, and I made that really clear right away. But I'm like, all right. So they moved the ball from the 2 to the 1. Josh Allen tush push or Cook, or Ray Davis even inside. They're going to run the ball. It's at the 1-yard line now instead of the 2. That's why you take the point off the board. Well, the Bills went in a spread formation and threw the ball. It was the play where Keon got hit out of bounds and came back in, but it didn't count. So the Bills lost a 2-point conversion, and then they spent the rest of the game basically chasing the 2 and caught a break because Baltimore missed an extra point near the end of the game, which ended up mattering or whatever. Or not near the end of the game, but in the 4th quarter. My point was, dude, I am telling you, I literally was losing my mind that the Bills, not even so much they took the point off the board, but if you're just going to throw the ball out of a spread formation, you may as well have just went for the 2-point conversion right after scored a touchdown. What the hell's the difference between the 2 or the 1? If anything, you got 1 extra yard less of room for your receivers to try to run a route. Like, That was awful. And Joe Brady, look, it's really hard to criticize an offensive coordinator when you would score 41 points, God damn it. But Joe Brady did some really questionable things, we'll say. It just felt like Josh Allen turned it up because he had no choice. They were down 15 late in the fourth quarter, and that's really when things open up. But until that point, even though the offense was having some success, Steve, there were some play calls and some player usage that I just thought was really stupid, quite frankly.
So when they came out in the spread formation for that 2-point conversion, I actually really liked it because I'm like, man, get everybody out of the box and then run QB power. Like instead of having to be 8 fat guys against 8 fat guys, get everybody out of the box and then let Allen have the power. I also like when Allen has the option where he takes the shotgun snap and starts running like power. And if someone's dragging behind the linebackers and they're there, he pops it over, right? He gives them the option that if everybody crashes down to the line of scrimmage because he's running QB power, he can kind of flip it over the defensive line and find the receiver behind them. But instead, they move the pocket to the right and then Keon. Also, I don't know. Did Keon got forced out of bounds? Doesn't it feel like that should have changed the rule? Like I understand when you step out of bounds, you can't be the first to touch the ball, but I was under the impression, and maybe wrongfully so, that if you get pushed out by the defender and immediately reestablish, you are an eligible receiver. I could be completely wrong. Just in my brain, that's how the rule worked. Clearly not, and that isn't the case. But I think that sometimes Brady is trying to be cute or trying to protect Allen or trying to do maybe the bare minimum to give, Allen success. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, shit, that's not working. And then I feel like Allen just calls the game from there. How often from the line of scrimmage was he then changing the play and killing things and changing things and alert and whatever? And, I'm not sure how often Josh calls his own plays. Like I know Peyton Manning called most of all of his plays. And it feels like as the game goes on, Josh is given the keys to the Lamborghini, or he is the Lamborghini for that matter. And they let him, he bursts out of the garage because he doesn't have a choice. I don't know what the thinking is. I don't know how everybody on Twitter and the two of us have a better idea of what Josh Allen should be doing in the first quarter against the Baltimore Ravens rather than running smoke screens to Dawson Knox. But what do we know? Like you said, Brady put up 41 points and the Bills had, the highest scoring offense in history last year, whatever the hell that record was. And maybe we don't know shit because maybe Brady's plan all along was to have a comeback win late. And I'm just kidding. I don't know.
No, well, Ken, listen, I have a take that I thought in the third quarter was right, and I think I might have been wrong. And first of all, the Bills scored 41 points because Josh Allen is the MVP of the league, and he played like it. It's just what it is, man. That throw to Josh Palmer on that last drive, are you kidding me to make that throw? Just his poise, like when he gets out of the pocket, man, he is so, I bet you in his mind, it feels so fast, but in his mind, the game probably feels so slow to him when he gets on the move. He threw that one pass as kind of almost like take it like hot potato kind of pass. Look, he wasn't perfect, too. He got a couple breaks. It could have been a couple interceptions in that game, too. But you know what? Throughout 4 quarters, and when you throw the ball, 46 times, you're going to have a couple plays like that. But, yeah, the 2-point conversion thing really pissed me off. And I like what you said because I agree with you. Maybe you're going to spread it out, and then Josh runs up to the line and tush pushes it. But that pissed me off, and I didn't like the 2-point conversion attempt to Keon Coleman, which I was a little bit worried about coming into this game. And that's one of the things, like I said, my wife's my Bills game partner. We watch all the games together. And I said, I'm a little concerned that they're going to try to force the ball into Keon Coleman too much. Kind of like Gabe Davis syndrome. We used to see that with Gabe Davis sometimes. Well, I'll tell you what, and a lot of people have been talking about this in the live chat here. Keon Coleman, this was his breakout performance. But anyway, what I was telling you earlier was I feel like just Lamar Jackson has so much more around him, between Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, who was a stud tonight. That catch DeAndre Hopkins made. All-pro defensive players. Kyle Hamilton, what a beast he is at safety. Good God, I wish he was a Buffalo Bill. Anyway, Kyle Van Noy. But here's the deal. The Bills' young players that we need to be really good and step up, well, guess what, man? They did. They did tonight. Dalton Kincaid had that touchdown pass or reception. He also, and someone else pointed this out in the chat, I think it was Alex, he caught that ball with 1 second left. That led to a Bills field goal on the last play of the half, which obviously turned out to be enormous. You look at his stat line, and again, that's a good game for my tight end. I'll take that all day. Plus, Dawson Knox had a couple catches. Jackson DeHaas, holy shit, was that a big catch for him on near the end of the day. Oh, my God, that was a great catch in the fourth quarter. And then the other guy's Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman, 8 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. And you said it earlier. He started the game off with a drop. I'm like, Jesus, what the hell? Is this, Keon's so great in the summer. Well, guess what? When you need him. You know what I mean? And Josh Palmer, a guy I've been really high on. I had him as my X factor going into this game tonight. And my bold prediction, I did a live show with Perino and Jay Skursky the other night. And I said my bold prediction was Josh Palmer is going to lead this team in receiving yards this year. Well, yeah, what do you have here? 61 yards on 5 catches. None bigger than that fourth quarter catch. My point is, Josh was amazing, but the weapons around him. James Cook, that great catch. Holy shit, he almost scored a touchdown there. He had 5 catches for 58 yards. The weapons helped Josh. So I don't want to sit here, Steve, and say Josh did it by himself. The Bills' young guys stepped up, didn't they?
Yeah, and it's Coleman and Kincaid. It has to be. And they both had great games, better games than they've had. I mean, it's obviously Keon's best game, and Kincaid had a couple games, especially in his rookie year, where the stat line might have matched this. But those two guys are going to be, 1A and 1B for this offense. I like the idea of Palmer being more involved, but it's kind of I want to kind of talk about a couple of things. One, the fade pattern to Keon, I don't hate so much if it's not a one and done play. Like on first down, if you throw him a fade and he doesn't catch it, so be it.
100%.
The game's on the line. You're throwing a fade pattern. We were talking about throwing the bubble screens as like a low risk, highly conservative play call. The fade pattern is the opposite of that. That's the high risk, high reward play that works in the NFL like 10% of the time. Mm-hmm. And I get that you want to give him a chance to go up and make a play, but I just didn't like the decision to have a fade pattern there. And then that throw that you keep mentioning. What's crazy is like it looked like the Ravens were in maybe cover 3 or cover 2 trying to take the boundary away because they don't want anybody to get out of bounds. And you talked about that throw, and he had to throw it between the 2 zones, and that window that he had to throw all the way over to the left sideline had to be so small, and he puts it in there. And honestly, Pat, what the recipe ends up being is, yes, Josh Allen is a mutant. He's the MVP. He's arguably the best player in the league, and he played like it. But today, unlike where, Kincaid had the drop against the Chiefs, guys made plays for him as well. That one, there was a throw down the left sideline that Keon had to go up about 3 feet to make the catch on, and he did. He was uncontested, but it was a high ball, and they made a play for him. When Kincaid made that catch down the sideline and got out of bounds, they made a play for him. There were times that guys made plays for Allen. There are weeks that Allen doesn't need anybody to fucking help him. He can just do it. He doesn't need, he'll run it himself if he has to 20 times and score 3 touchdowns on the ground, and he doesn't need anybody's help. It was so encouraging to see against maybe the second best team in the AFC or the best team in the AFC that his playmakers made plays. So when Allen does roll out and make this crazy wild move to escape pressure and throws a ball that's not perfect, there's guys that are making catches. When Shakir's coming back to the ball, we've seen Shakir do this for years, but Shakir in the scramble drill kind of coming back to the ball, making a diving catch. Keon Coleman making the catch on, I don't know what Dawson Knox is doing there, why he's reaching up for that ball. I think that ball was going to Keon all the way, and Dawson Knox gets the tip on it, almost defended the pass, but Coleman makes a diving catch, and what a great job to secure it to his chest. We had the perfect combination, especially in the second half, of Allen going nuclear, but the playmakers making plays to back him up. And that's the only way you're going to win when you're down 15 points with 7 minutes to go in the game. But it was really encouraging to see, that's kind of the offense firing on all cylinders. And we saw that for most of the second half and all of the fourth quarter. I think I saw that the Bills outscored the Ravens 22-6 in the fourth quarter. Pat, how many teams in the NFL today didn't score 22 points? And the Bills put up 22 points in the fourth quarter.
That's a great point, man. I'm looking at this. And again, we're doing this in real time. I didn't have time to put notes together. So you're talking, I'm listening to you, and I'm also looking at some numbers. So it's like, if you would have told me this game. So Derrick Henry runs for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. Zay Flowers catches 7 balls for $143 and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins makes one of the greatest catches you'll ever see. Baltimore only turns the ball over 1 time, and they lose. Mm-hmm. It's nuts. And if you said before the game, I want to draw up the perfect script for the Bills offense. Let's have Josh throw for 394 and 2 touchdowns. Let's have, James Cook didn't really run very well. He didn't have a lot of holes, but he ran 44 yards, but he had a touchdown. But anyway, Josh also ran for 2 touchdowns. Keon Coleman, he's going to have over 100 yards receiving. Kincaid's going to make some big catches. Palmer's going to make some big catches. Khalil Shakir, always reliable. Jackson Hawes is going to make a huge rookie debut, and they all do that. It's just crazy to me. I want to pull up here. Again, we're doing this in real time. The game-winning drive for the Bills. I got to look at this again. So, 6-yard pass on first down, then an 8-yard pass. It was Allen to Coleman. Then Josh scrambled for 5 yards, but they got a penalty. Who was that? That was on the Deion Dawkins false start, which is okay. Then here's the big play. Here it is. The 32-yard pass. He rolls out left, and he hit Josh Palmer for 32 yards, or 34 yards down to the 32-yard line. And then the 25-yard pass to Keon Coleman, who, we'll never know, or maybe he'll admit it, but he kind of got tripped up. I wonder if he would have scored a touchdown, which would not have been good, obviously, if he didn't get ever so tripped up. I wonder if he would have had the wherewithal to go down at the 5-yard line. Anyway, there it is. Bam, bam. 32-yard pass to Josh Palmer and a 25-yard pass to Keon Coleman in back-to-back plays. So it's 57 yards of passing on 2 plays in the last drive. It's just, God.
And the execution, Pat, Palmer's ability to split the zones at the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And I watching the replay, that the Coleman's running like a skinny post maybe. How the fuck was he that wide open?
Nah.
Like, they're throwing the ball. Maybe it's because they were trying to protect the boundary, but at that point, even the broadcasters were saying Allen has plenty of time. Like, the middle of the field is not off the table. There was still enough time left that they could run 3, 4, 5 more plays. So I don't know if they were just so focused on the boundary that they didn't want to give up anything to the outside. But if even for people watching us or listening tomorrow, watch that replay of Coleman on that last catch when he got tripped up inside the 10. He is wide open. Like, he is able to run this post pattern, and there is not a defender. There's a defender that's kind of turned around, running out in front of him 5 yards away. It was unbelievable that he was that wide open at that stage of the game. That was awesome. You keep saying we're just kind of talking. How about Dorian Strong? I would not even have guessed he was going to be the starter today. And for all the things that could have went wrong, I feel like maybe he didn't. Like, at first, I think Matt Prater texted that Dorian Strong got beat by DeAndre Hopkins down the sideline for the touchdown. It was not Dorian Strong. That was Christian Benford that got beat on that nutty one-handed catch. I don't even know if
it's hard to say he got beat, too. It was right
Hopkins
there.
made a circus catch.
A once-in-a-lifetime almost kind of catch.
But we weren't sure if it was going to be Dane Jackson starting over there, Jamarcus Ingram. Well, they go with the rookie, Dorian Strong. And overall, I mean, there were defenders that looked a lot worse than him out there.
Well, I'll say this about Dorian Strong. For the most part, you're right. He could have stuck out like a really bad sore thumb.
Mm-hmm. Like Elam did in the playoffs last year?
Yes. But I will say, there was one play. It was on first down, too, and I even tweeted about it. I was like, Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, felt like he was dialing up a play action to Zay Flowers the whole game, and he did. Dorian Strong got frozen, and then wide open was Zay Flowers along the right sideline, and ended up being a huge gain. He got smoked on that play, got beat bad. But other than that, he was adequate. He was all you could realistically hope for a 6th-round rookie who was he was 4th or 5th on the cornerback depth chart a handful of weeks ago, stepping in and starting against one of the best. I still think on paper the Ravens from 1 to 53 are the best roster in the NFL. I'm not going to change my mind because they lost by 1 point in the last play of the game. I'll say this, and we're going to wrap this up soon. Like I said, I'll have plenty more thoughts after sleeping on this and watching the film. But here's one thing, and again, it's always good to have a W and try to work on some things. There's one thing about tonight's game that really, in a very negative way, stuck out like an absolute sore thumb, and that was the play of the safeties. The play of the safeties, not acceptable. It was horrible. And it's easy to beat up on Cole Bishop, and he did not play well. I want to be really clear about that as well. That one, and Chris Collinsworth, a little overboard saying embarrassing. That's not Derrick Henry's Derrick Henry. You know, he gets that leverage on you. He slammed his head to the ground. Cole Bishop also made a couple mistakes. He got caught in a blitz 20 yards away. They pointed that out. Although, in fairness, if you watch it, and someone pointing this out, the Ravens run right to the line and snapped the ball. The Bills didn't even have a chance to disguise their defense. So he was on a blitz call, but he didn't even have a chance to creep up because the Ravens quick snapped it. Anyway, Cole Bishop was awful. But you know what? So was Taylor Rapp. Let's just say what it is. Taylor Rapp, who's been banged up a little bit during camp, he was terrible. He was out of position a handful of times. He got beat. He missed some tackles. That Derrick Henry touchdown that I described earlier, it looked like he was in slow motion, literally. I'm like Jordan Poyer could come out here and run faster than this. I mean, he looked like a slower Jordan Poyer. And if you're going to run like that, something's got to be done. I even tweeted something I never thought I would do, Steve.
Yeah, this is how you know the safeties were bad, Pat, because I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, I tweeted that I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have reached a conclusion where I would rather have Damar Hamlin out there. And I'm not trying to be an asshole and just shit all over Damar Hamlin. I mean it. And they pointed out on the broadcast, Damar could do one thing, it's tackle pretty well, and he's pretty fundamentally sound. The Bills' safeties were not fundamentally sound at all. They were exposed left and right. They couldn't tackle. They couldn't cover. They looked slow. Well, at least especially Rapp. This is a problem, Steve, that I don't think it's going to go away. I mean, they got away with it this week, and some weeks might not matter because this offense and the rest of the team is just really, really good anyway. But this safety position, it was a concern coming into the season, and it is far and away, to me, the biggest concern right now.
Listen, in the same episode, you're calling for Damar Hamlin to play and giving Ed Oliver all this credit. I don't even know what the fuck's going on. We got Oliver and Damar Hamlin getting shout-outs from Pat Moran. I don't know.
Well, Ed was on a different level, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I would like to think maybe when they have either Hairston or Trey playing on the other side, the whole secondary might look better. I don't know if they were trying to cover for Dorian Strong. We'll never know how that all works. They were not good. It's funny because when you were saying for you, or what you were saying was like the glaring thing that needs improvement, and these things can go hand in hand as the safeties. For me, it's still the third down defense. You get a great offense into third and long, and I think Baltimore punted twice all night. I don't know.
They punted in again, though, they forced 2 3-and-outs and a forced fumble on their last 3 drives, but when they punted, they didn't punt in the first half, and they didn't punt in the AFC divisional game last year. So they went 6.5 quarters without a punt against the Bills.
And that's a problem. Like and it's not for lack of trying. They keep trying to beef up this defensive line, and third down is when they're supposed to pin their ears back. That's when they're supposed to make the hay. That's when they're supposed to make their money. And you get a team into 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, and it doesn't just happen once, Pat. It happens 5, 6 times a game that they get into 3rd and 10 and they don't get off the field. It's just that, to me, is the biggest glaring, thing that they need to work on. Obviously, that could go hand in hand with having lousy safeties, and it all kind of ties together. Man, they are trying so hard to make this defense be great because they already have the best offense in the NFL because of Josh Allen. And it's way too early to say, but man, did they whiff again? I don't know. I mean, Bosa looked good for the first half, especially. Maybe when Hairston's healthy, he's going to be a great difference maker. But if this defense doesn't figure out how to get off the field in third down, if this secondary doesn't figure out how to tackle and how to make better plays in the passing game and not let Zay Flowers have 3 catches for 50 yards each, that's going to be a problem. Defense wins championships, and thankfully for them, they have that guy that wears number 17 that put on his Superman cape today and willed them to win and put them on his back. And we're so much better off getting to watch that because, man, is it awesome to watch that guy work and to be a fan of what he's doing. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, in 3 months, when the games are for the division or for the divisional round or whatever, the defense has to be better than it was today outright. That defense could have lost to a team like the Jets or the Saints or the Patriots the way the defense played for most of the game today. Is that credit to Baltimore's offense, or is that the Bills' defense has a lot to figure out? Do we trust McDermott and Babich to look at the tape and figure some things out? God, I hope so.
Well, for a lot of the game, it just looked like it wasn't. I didn't even really have a problem with most of the schemes and what they were doing. They were desperate to try to stop the run, and they just couldn't do it. I mean, they were just getting physically bodied, and it's just. And in some cases, the guys like I said, Taylor Rapp just not looking athletic enough, and it's. I don't know, man. And by the way, I'm some kind of like on TweetDeck looking at some things. Yeah, I mean, you pointed this out. The Ravens had a 99.1% chance of winning the game when there was 4:48 left in the game, according to ESPN analytics. 99.1% chance of winning the game with under 5 minutes left. So we've been talking, and we're going to wrap this up in a few here for nearly an hour, and I'm just now starting to lose a little bit of that adrenaline. I'm starting to just feel a little, now I'm starting to get warm because that was just so fatiguing, going through the ups and downs of that football game. And I'm not going to lie to you. The Bills scored first. I'm like, all right, here we go. Baltimore inches back, or they kicked a field goal. Then they scored a touchdown. It felt like they were never going to stop them. And I never felt confident that the Bills were going to win this football game after the first 7 minutes until literally the last play. Literally the last play it took before I got confident. Joe Brady with his padded and 1-0 tweet. I'm just looking to see if I miss, because again, we're doing this in real time. By the way, 41-40, here's a fun fact. Scoregami.
Wow.
It is the first 41-40 game in the history of the NFL tonight. Let's see. The Bills tallied the team's first fourth quarter 15-point comeback since 1967. 1967. So this is the first time that the Bills have done what they did tonight since 1967. We'll wrap up in a second. But by the way, we're just 1 week in, Steve, and guess what? The Bills are already in sole possession of first place in the AFC East because the Jets lost a very nail-biting game to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Jets look very competitive. I watched a lot of that game. New England kind of laid an egg at home, and they got handled by the Raiders, which is surprising to me. And then Miami just looks like they're just ready to – they look like they're ready to quit. If they haven't already quit on their head coach, I don't think they got any answers. I think it's going to be a long – I know this is an overreaction after 1 week. It's easy to say that, but I think it's going to be a long year for the Miami Dolphins. I could see Tyreek Hill getting traded. I could see Mike McDaniel not lasting the season. I could see Greer getting fired after the year. I think it might be time for Miami to blow it up and start over, because that's just a team that lacks toughness and leadership, and they're just a soft team, and I don't think they believe in each other. They certainly don't believe in their head coach, and it feels that way to me right away, because to go into Indianapolis and just get absolutely boat raced like they did is
Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Daniel Jones looked awesome. Last point. So, and again, I'll be back tomorrow, and like I said, I'll have some takeaways after watching the film and going through all the stuff, and maybe a little less emotional episode tomorrow. But Bills Jets here Sunday 1 p.m. and suddenly, based on what we saw at least today between the Bills' struggle on defense and the Jets' offense, and I'll tell you what, man, Fields looked really, really good against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are no pushovers on defense either. I mean, Justin Fields
looked good as a passer too.
Yeah, he looked good as a passer, a runner. Garrett Wilson had a good game, even though he could not hold on to the ball at the end. Breece Hall ran the ball well. Braylon Allen's a good goal line threat. I expect a competitive game right now, man.
Yeah, and looking at the standings, obviously the Bills the only team to win in the East. Watching the Dolphins implode is one of the best parts of the week. The Chiefs lose. The Ravens have now lost, so the Bills already have a leg up on the teams that they're going to be competing with. And I know we talked about it. On the schedule coming into the year, I had the Bills looking at 13-4. I had a loss to the Ravens, Houston, Philadelphia, and Cincinnati. Well, I was already wrong about the Ravens, so I guess I have to change my season prediction to 14-3. And if they're 14-3, having already beaten Baltimore, and I have them beating the Chiefs because they always seem to beat the Chiefs in the regular season, way too early. But man, would the 1 seed be nice? Could you imagine how nice it would be to get that bye and have home field throughout? And the last season of Rich Stadium, the Ralph, Highmark, whatever you want to call it. Listen, all I know is about 2 hours ago, it looked like this team was going to be 0-1. Instead, they're 1-0 and set up really well with the schedule going forward and all the teams around them losing that they would have wanted to lose.
Now, listen, again, I pre-wrote a story that they were going to lose, and I'm going to have to do a lot of changing while this show uploads, changing some stuff in the notes, but that's okay. Had I had time to wait for its numbers to come in, this literally would have been the first sentence to start this podcast tonight. The Buffalo Bills are the first team in NFL history ever to be down by 15-plus points with under 4 minutes left and win the game in regulation. What we just saw tonight, if you thought it was kind of historic, it is quite literally unprecedented. The Buffalo Bills are the first team ever to be down 15 plus with 4 minutes left or less and win a game in regulation. So we're podcasting a historic, literally live reaction show right now, Steve. Just awesome. Still can't believe it.
I'm sure more stories like this are going to keep coming out too. Like, as you know, you talk about how you're going to look at the film and look at, the stories and all that kind of stuff. That all the people on the national media are going to be doing the same thing and digging up stuff like that. And this is a historic win, as you said, and historic loss for the Ravens, because I'm sure, and we've mentioned that they have a little bit of a legacy of losing games like this, but I don't know, if the Ravens have ever lost a game after being up 15 with 4 minutes to go either. The shoe goes, it goes both ways for the Bills and the Ravens. Everything that we're celebrating, Baltimore is crying over. And now, you beat one of the teams that you're going to be competing with the rest of the way. This was the matchup that everybody was looking forward to in week one. It did not disappoint. And, if you're a Bills fan, not much to complain about when you find a way to beat a team as good as Baltimore.
No, and here's the last thing I want to say, too, as we're getting ready to get out of here. This had to be one of Josh Allen's best statistical games in terms of yards, and especially in the second half. There's a lot to clean up, and I want to make, and again, I'm going to be talking about it plenty, I'm sure, all week long. But as incredible as Josh Allen is, I want to make sure that Palmer, Kincaid, and Hawes get their flowers for making huge plays in this game. And the biggest thing, too, beyond Josh Allen is, I can't emphasize enough how good Ed Oliver was tonight, and how good and how important Keon Coleman was to the Buffalo Bills tonight. And I'll tell you what, if this is a sign of things to come, lo and behold, the Bills, not that it matters because I don't think they need one, but, if you care about the term number one wide receiver, the Bills may have found their number one wide receiver tonight, because God almighty, he played really, really big. He was so big for them. So Ed Oliver, Keon Coleman, Josh Allen helped mask a lot of other flaws that went on with this team against maybe the best team on paper, certainly in the NFL. So, Steve, I thank you so much, man. I also want to thank everybody who's watched this live. I mean, we're late as hell. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'll probably, by the time this gets up and I get edited and get the notes, probably be 2:30 before I get to sleep, and I don't give a shit. I don't care. I would care a lot more if the Bills would have lost that game and it would have been a blowout, although this would have probably been a 30-minute episode. But, Steve, and thank you again, like almost 1,600 people live with us right now. Steve, this was awesome, man. You did a great job. And for people, if you don't know Steve, if you're newer to the show, you're going to see plenty of Steve on throughout this season, talking Bills, midweek, late week, primarily. And also Steve is a big hockey guy too as well. So the Sabres are starting. I'm not going to kill my good vibes tonight talking Sabres, but the Sabres are back soon. And Steve's a broadcaster for Bandits game. So when the Bandits are around too, we'll be talking that. So you'll be seeing plenty of Steve throughout the season, man. You were awesome, dude. Appreciate you, man.
Man, thanks for having me. Burning the Midnight Oil was awesome. I'll miss Joe, because he's one of a kind, that's for sure. I feel like I had some big shoes to fill, but I just appreciate you having me on. It was great talking about this, and man, we had no idea what we were in for. This is what a great chance to talk about an amazing game. So I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, dude, I'm still kind of stunned right now that this is the tone and this is what we ended up talking about. But yeah, Bills 41, Ravens 40. Plenty more coming up on the show. Biggest takeaways after watching the film. All that coming up and more tomorrow. Thanks, guys.